This conference will now be recorded.
I'm going to navigate out to our class. So go to the CAD class, go way down, 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 down. And we're in this one, Work 13, Reflected Ceiling Plan Viewport Text Final Project. And there's a final project grading sheet. If you have downloaded it already, see, I think my computer's being weird today, then don't use that file. It's not really different, so if you've been looking at it and kind of like trying to get ahead for some reason, oh good, see, it's corrected here. That was weird, it didn't refresh. So I put one up, it had said 2017, and then I updated it for 2019. I just rechecked my verbiage. Sometimes I read myself back and I think I could have said that better, or I was missing something, and I didn't add much. I kind of just changed some of the wording and added a little disclaimer. So if we open that up, it'll open as a Word document. We can enable editing to preview it. So we get our basic final CAD project sheet. Let me see if I can make it bigger and just have one page at a time. Okay, so we have our student name will be you, and then our competency is here from A through F. Submission must include a drawing set PDF file, a final Boathouse CAD file, a final SketchUp model, and perspective view JPEG file, which this will make more sense as we go through to the bottom. Then I have a disclaimer right here. It's really important for my space planning students that you understand this part. It's the part that catches people up every semester. So space planning only students. The list below does not include any extra sheets you need to complete the full space planning sheet set. You must put any extra details, elevations, and NKBA plans on sheets that coincide with your cover sheet. I will deduct 10 points from the final total if these drawings are not in the sheet set. So what that means is priority for my class and for everybody else who's not in space planning is to get your sheets done as they're listed here, and then my class who's not in space planning, they'll be done with that much. But the people in space planning, you're just going to need a few more sheets that we've never made. And part of your project for space planning is to make a cover sheet. And part of it is to make sure you have clean copies of your NKBA stuff and your elevations on sheet sets that somebody could page through as a PDF format. So it has to be completed for Professor King's class. This is just another stop check against you forgetting it to put that in that format. So for everybody in the class, we're going to talk tonight about how to create a cover sheet. And then after that, it just is checking that you've completed and are ordering in a good order the remainder of the sheets. So for my class, they must be in this given order. For people in space planning, this is a good suggested order, but amidst these, you're going to need to add certain things that I don't have, and you get to make a decision about how you do that. For everyone, the cover sheet comes first, and for everyone, I would suggest the second page to be a site plan. When we're flipping through a document that tells us about a property, it's nice to start from the outside and work our way in. Start from the broad, bigger picture and work our way down to the teeny tiny details. So we would have a cover sheet that's going to tell us how to navigate our packet of information. And then the first page after the cover sheet is usually a site plan, which would show us the whole exterior of the space. Then the next page after that, good to be a plain floor plan with no furniture that shows me the bones of the structure. Then the next one to be a furniture plan that shows me the furniture and like the big broad swoop of how I decorate it. Then after that is where I could start to get any electrical and like fine tuning, plumbing, detailing, but if you wanted to, because you're space planning, start to add some of those sheets. So like, oh, now I'm in the house. I looked at my furniture. Let's now look at elevations and kitchen layouts. That would be a nice place to put them, somewhere right here after the furniture plan. You could put it later on if you want to, but that's kind of where it starts to break down and become your decision. So our first page cover sheet is the only thing new to my class that you would need to complete. So let's go ahead and look at our drawings. Close this and say, I don't have one, so I have to create one in real time. So we have a site plan, a floor plan, and so forth. We need to duplicate a page, so move or copy a sheet, a final sheet, and I could do create a copy of my site plan, and it fell right here. I could double click to rename it in the lower left-hand corner. You see me doing that, and we'll say cover sheet. Then on my cover sheet, let's see from my Word document what I need. An exterior elevation of the boathouse, a sheet index of all sheets, and a title block filled in and labeled CS. So if I go back to my AutoCAD, I already have this nice window, but it could be locked. It's not. It's unlocked on mine. You might need to unlock it. I don't have an elevation now. People in space planning, I think you do have an exterior elevation. You may use an inspiration photo if you want to, but hopefully you have a real picture of what you've done. If not, there's an easy way that we can go about doing that in our SketchUp program. So I can make this window a little smaller because it sounds like I'm going to have a list of what's in the packet, and the cover sheet is like your first look at the whole project. So you usually put like the front of the house, a nice beautiful photo here, or a big overall exterior elevation. If I go back into earlier weeks, so I'm going to go back a step, and I'm going to find that SketchUp file that I said isn't beautiful. It's way back here in week 8, Introduction to SketchUp, the full boathouse. And I'm going to download it. For the people who are in my class, and even for some of you, I know in space planning, you talked to our helpers and they said this is a good way to do it. We can just pull up for our exterior elevation this model. It is good for these kind of things, little vignettes, little snippets. We'll pull up the model of the whole house. What we know about an elevation is we have to have our camera in the upper left-hand corner in parallel projection. And then we have to have our standard view be whichever side it is. So is this the front? No, it's not. So I've got to go until I find it. Standard view left, maybe? Okay, left. Then I'm going to use my hand to move because I don't want to move out. I'm going to scroll back with my mouse, and here's a nice exterior elevation. And wherever I crop it is how much grass and sky I'm going to get, and I don't want to have a bunch of extra stuff in here, so I'm just going to crop it about up here. So remember, camera, parallel projection on. Standard view was whatever view gets this to be in elevation mode for the side that you want to show. This is the front of the house. So now I can do a file, export, 2D graphic, and I can send it to my folder that I've been keeping tabs on. I'm going to call this exterior elevation try, just because it's random, but it lets me know what I'm doing. Okay, it's been audited, exported. I'm going to minimize all my stuff. Mine's on my desktop. And I'm going to find that elevation on my desktop. Exterior elevation try. Oh, I was set. Oh, this is good. So this is one way for you to do it. So I'll show you this way first. So we could have the image, or we could do the drawing as black and white. It's up to you, really, as long as you have an elevation of some type. So if you don't want a color image, we can open the drawing. What I didn't do is set JPEG instead of UWG file. So we've got this guy. We can take him, do a crossing window, copy everything we want, copy in the upper right-hand corner using our sheets of paper off the clipboard. Go back to our boathouse, go into Model, find a spot. Here's this section. Maybe nice to put it close by there. So this is the front elevation. And I could create a new layer for it. So I could open my layer properties, little sunshiny spot star, and say exterior elevation. We'll make that current. Select him and put him on it. Remember, we can always type on our keyboard and it just went straight to it then. Exterior elevation. I'm going to exit off and click on it. Yes, that's nice. Now, is there some uglies? There are. So you want to go back in and delete any uglies. This is for our final project. We don't know what this is. Little like side showing of a window, but it's not pretty enough to be meaningful. I'm going to delete it off. I could close some gaps in here if I wanted to. Remember, this is just a tool. It's not meant to be perfect and lovely. It's meant to save you time, but not save you all the work. So I've got this okay elevation, and I can go to my cover sheet then and double click into my box to be actively looking into my model space from my paper space. Zoom out with my scroll, zoom back in. And usually we want them at 1/2 inch for elevations. We could see if it's too big, it's too big. So we can zoom out a little bit and say, 1/4, is that a nice size? Yeah, maybe something between there, 3/8. Ooh, I like 3/8, it's pretty. So you can crop it. We want to make sure our cropping window does not exclude any portion of the building's roof or pieces, but it does include a little bit of its grass because it's nice to have some context. And now I've got a cute cover for this. Now, if I had been in SketchUp, I could have done File, Export, 2D Graphic, and here's where I said I didn't make the change that I had anticipated, JPEG, and I'm going to say the same thing because it's okay, it's a different format. Exterior elevation. Try, but it's a JPEG. So I'm going to export to my desktop. Both of these are viable options. I come to my desktop and I'm going to pull my cat off to the side here. Come into my big file. Get back into my model space really quick. Now it should be, we remember when we were doing the chairs and stuff, we can just drop and drag and insert and pull this to be whatever we want. Now in this case, we're not trying to scale it to the size of the house. We're just bringing in a nice image. I'm going to hold shift down so I get it straight. And then I have a nice color image that I can use for my cover. So that's another possible option. If I maximize my CAD again, and I go into my cover sheet, I could double click in here and pan up and then just take my viewport and pull it over to there. Now it could be that big. We want to get a good balance of image and text on our front cover, just like we do for any part of our project. We could align the color portion of this. We're not going to physically print it, but if you ever wanted to print it in color, you'd have to make sure you set that in your print setting. But it's nice to have a real image instead of just a black and white line drawing. If you want to go the way extra mile and you're in my class and not in space planning and you want to play with the front, make it brick, change the roof color, that's on you, but it's not required. Maybe it's just you don't like it, it's ugly, you want to change it, go for it, and then do your JPEG. So cover, some type of aspect of an exterior elevation, done. Then a sheet index of all sheets. So that has to go below in here in another box. I showed someone this the other day, and I don't know that I've ever mentioned it, but I'm just going to repeat it. So I can do a copy of a box here. So if I do copy and then I pull it down, I don't have to do the long keyboard command where I type in viewport. So I could have also done viewport. And then it brings up this, and I could do single, and I could say okay, and I could place it and stretch it, and I could do it that way. So I don't have to do that if I already have a viewport. I can just copy it like any other thing. I make sure the exterior line is selected, and then I have the copy, and then I click what I want to copy, and then I pull it over, and I have a copy. So that's a nice quick shortcut. So for this portion, we're going to have some type of text. So I could just kind of make myself zoomed out over here or near these lists down here if I want to keep my text organized in my visual. And we'll come on out in here and we'll move to model space to create the text. So I could take some copy, like, hey, this is pretty big. I could just copy this guy to the side. And I could say, what do I want to say? Why can't I think of what I want to call it? I don't want to call it a key. I want to call it, I could just say index. And then below that, we're going to have S1 because it's our first sheet. Now I don't want it to be underlined, so we want to turn that off by select it and ununderline it. That's fun to say in the upper left-hand corner under my text tool. Then I've got this first one. Then what's after that in my worksheet? Second page after this, so it goes site plan, which is S-1, then floor plan, which is A-1. So I could come in and say S-1, A-1, and continue on and down as I go through this section of things. So I've gotten past my A1, then the furniture plan, which is A2, then the ceiling plan, which is A3. So I got A2, A3. This is just like a table of contents in a book. Okay, so I've got it started. I can go back to my cover sheet. I see where I've started that. So I've got to double click in here and kind of drag this down. And then I can zoom in to increase my text size for this within reason if it's going to fit. I can also set it in here if that makes more sense. If I say what's 1/2, so you can play with the zooming and setting of the things. We got to fit all things, and this isn't everything, but just to show you what it would look like. You could also say within the model space, maybe these things, like they're set at 2 foot, and so is the main header. And this is more important, tells me like what all of these things are. Maybe these should be smaller a little bit. So I could say 1 foot 6 inches. So they're a little less pronounced compared to the index header, and make them smaller. But what I need you to understand is the indexing portion and what this cover sheet is being used to do. So this tells me my next sheet, when I go to print these things off, is going to be my site plan. So if it says your site plan is the next sheet, then I come into my site plan and I look at it, should say S1, yes. And then the tab after that, and we're organizing them with tabs. These tabs could be printed in whatever order, and you could organize them physically in real life. But you want it to make sense, and maybe it's easier to drag these into the order they should be in. So if I say the next one's A1, and right now it's floor plan, so that is A1 for me. If it wasn't, if this was A1, say, I can always just left click and drag the tabs to be wherever I want. So I'm going to left click and drag him between furniture plan and lighting again. So it doesn't have to be a big moving thing. You don't have to delete and reorder. You just left click, hold, and drop in between wherever you want it, whatever tab you want to move. So I've got my cover sheet, that's C1. Now, that means actually under this index, we should be accounting for the fact that this is a page, which seems silly. But if I come in here before S1, the actual first page is C1. I'm going to underline it, and I'm going to make it 1 foot 6 inches. so it matches the rest. So now the index matches with what's happening, but my title block does not. So don't forget, you got to come in and adjust this because we copied it from being a site plan or whatever plan you're going to copy. So I have C1 first, S1 next, A1 after that, A2 after that, A3 after that. I know I'm being redundant, but I don't want to hit it home. And then E1, and that's fine. So usually our A's all go together. I'm not super concerned that they're perfectly together for some of you who are in space planning because it gets a little confusing when you add more details and stuff. So, and if you want to, if for some reason you want to jump around and so you want the PDF to be in an order where it's like, but while I'm talking about the master bedroom and bathroom, here's that electrical plan that goes to the master bedroom and bathroom. So I'm going to allow you to jump order like I did in here. And because look, this is an A plan and it's out of order. You could also, though, in real life know that usually A5 would follow after A4 and you'd keep A's together. It's easier for a small project like this that you're showing to somebody to do it as you'd present it in real life. So that's why you might change your order of the things. Michelle said in her module, there's still a 2017 grading sheet. So let's make sure that it gets updated. Marsara says, for labeling the details, how do we label the baseboard or crown molding on the plan? So you put it, the detail symbol, Marsara, would go onto your reflected ceiling plan and not on your floor plan in that situation. Does that make sense? For crown. For baseboard, it would go on your floor plan. So I'm kind of answering some random chat questions. So reflected ceiling plan, you'd have a normal detail label coming off of any point in any room. I'm assuming you're going to pick one. Maybe if it's just for the master, you could say that. Or it could be a general note on your reflected ceiling plan, Marsara, where you have, it says general notes. And then you say number 1, and you say all rooms or these rooms in this list, da 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 da, da include molding, da da da. We could look at that a little bit more tonight if you need more detail on how to put all of that together. So, cover sheet organizes the project. Sheets match with the tab order down here to be simple and precise. Make sure you include the cover as the first sheet, and then there's a little wiggle room in here. Make sure that the labelings are appropriate though. Electrical should be E, and we talked about that in the previous week, so this is just a reminder of those things. Okay, so that's all a cover sheet looks like. It's really simple, something to introduce us to the project, and then the table of contents that is going to lay out how we read through this document. So let's go back to our work in here. So we've got the extra sheet out, first page. The second page is the site plan. So now you're like, okay, great, I've got the site plan. So you can kind of go through with a highlighter. This is what I do as we're approaching the final and say, did I meet the requirements? So for the site plan, there's no color on the sheet. Sometimes I find people have bought in blocks and they're like green trees and red car blocks. And when they go to do the printing to the PDF, they haven't set it like we've set, say, the electrical, where certain things are gray and certain things are black. And so they send me a PDF and it's all colorful, but not intentionally. And I do mark off for that. So unless you plan for some reason for it to be that way for 108 because you want it to be all colorful and you want to do your rendered site plan in AutoCAD, which people have done with hatching before, then you need to either let me know or you'll be marked off, or it needs to be black and white. Proper text and hatching, consistent sizing and organization. So for my class, that's really simple. We already have site plan, river drive. For people in 108, if you've added things, you should have your little exterior office building that's showing on here, patio furniture, any concluded walkways, flower beds. You know, it's going to look like a site plan that's completed. Then if we go back to our Word doc, it says title block filled in. That was hopefully done in the last assignment, but if for any reason you miss points this week when you do that submission, you have time to go back and fix your labeling. So our third plan is our floor plan in a 1/4 inch scale. And that's just walls with solid hatching, doors for 108 drawn with appropriate thicknesses and type. So that means before we might not have been completed when I was checking your floor plan, and now it's like if you don't have physical real doors that aren't just little tiny thin baby lines with little arcs going through them, and you haven't drawn the symbols correctly to match with your specifications or any conceptual stuff when we get into that jury, then you will be marked off for it at those times. And the same thing in my class as far as like at least having the thickness of the door, having a joint for them to connect into. So if we were looking at that on plan and we said, if I go to my floor plan, these should look like this. They can't be missing one side of them. They should be detailed out to be real doors. And then if I have a door, I should always have some type of thing for that to connect to, a little nubby, as I'll call it, that I would have trim on exterior to this. So at least the width of a trim on either side. And if it's a closet, I should have a nub on either side. Some of you should really go check your comments on some of your assignments I've graded recently where I said you had like 2 huge doors because you had a big gap. So maybe you had a closet and it went from here to here. And so you did 2 huge swinging doors. And it's like, no, the appropriate thing would be to do 2 or like 2 huge bifolds. And it was like, that's silly. Imagine that in real life if you had like a 4-foot by 4-foot, which is like 8-foot bifold total, and it like pulls way out into the room, like 4 feet. So you want to have like, just section it off so you'd have 3 sections. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'd be 3 bifold doors that are in smaller portions with little pieces of drywall in between them here. So it's like you're almost there, but conceptually we haven't made the step to like the reality of being in the space with those doors. So just think about it because I'm looking for the actuality of what's happening with things now. All right, and then interior walls finalized, kitchen, master bedroom, master bath placed. For 108 students, that means entire final floor plan. So what this really means is like when I say wall solid hatching, a lot of you have made it to the point where sure, I hatched all the exterior stuff a long time ago, but you haven't gone back and cleaned it up so that any interior walls are hatched if they're full walls. They're just empty. And so I need that to be done for this final. Any real walls have to be filled in. All in any section, elevation, and detail symbols located. Non-108 students do not have to have elevation symbols. So that's the part in the plan where if we go back to my basic guy here, there's a detail symbol. Hopefully there my little circle's missing. It must be on a layer that's off, looking at it in the model. And that's the kind of thing, it's like, oh, see, I think I deleted it last week when I was playing around here. Let me go into here. House furniture is on, elevation. Oh, how cute of me to put it on its own layer. All right, so there they are. You have to have all of these on. If you made a detail for it and it's off to the side and you're going to put in your PowerPoint, people, for space planning, then you need to show me where I can find that on your plan, which is why it's great that Miss Sarah is asking about fixing her cove and her base molding if she didn't know where to put them. Let's see. If you have elevations, that would be in the middle of the space here, and it might be pointing to your kitchen, especially for those NKBA plans of kitchens and bathrooms that space planning did. Then those symbols have to be on this plan. We didn't do any elevations, us poor, sad, only CAD people. So we just have the ones that I'm showing. We would only have maybe a section and then these details that we've added. But you have to have your elevations on here or in your, if not on here, if you only did kitchen elevations and bath and you never moved beyond that assignment for Professor King, then it should be on the sheet the new sheet that you make that shows your kitchen and bath. Now, I'm sorry if this is going to shut everything down at this point, but I'm going to try again to open my friend Ellen's folders. Here's electrical reflected ceiling, because I think it's just that one bad tab that she has. Close. We're gonna let it think. We're gonna like just give it time to breathe. Zoom in a little bit. I don't know why it hates her file so much. But it sure hates it. Any questions while we wait for Ellen's file to think about its life for a minute? No, I don't want that to happen. You can ask real questions. Okay, guys, you're worrying me. Okay, so I'll let it keep thinking through Ellen's stuff for a minute. I really want to be able to show her file.
I have a question.
What did you say?
I have a question.
Oh, yes. Who's speaking? Mackenzie?
Yes.
Okay.
What would be the easiest way on SketchUp to make countertops?
The easiest way on SketchUp to make countertops. Sure, I can tell you that while we're trying to load something. So if I do file a new one, no, we're not going to see this because I don't think that we need it. The easiest way, and I'm gonna, because I think I know what you're working from, so I'm just gonna bring in a random kitchen. I'm gonna delete off the countertops so that we're at least starting in a similar spot. So cabinets, kitchen. If I come in and I have a run, download, yes. Da, da, da. I think the easiest way is always to build things on the ground and to move them. So if I had something like this guy and I came in, we'll see how good these people were. Okay, so, and I deleted that off. And you brought in all these nice cabinets. They're very workable, but then you're like, oh, I've got all the holes and I need to cut out a spot for my sink. Then what I would do is I would figure out the overall measurement of the exterior back of this, right? So 6 foot, almost 7 foot. And then I could figure out the depth hopefully is 24 inches basically, and then we have whatever if we want it to run over 1 inch on both sides. So let's do 7'1" by 25. Okay, so if I do 7'1" enter, and then let me get out of the group. Make sure I do good practices. I'm going to draw it again. So, and I like way on the ground, so I know I have my axes right. 7'1". Then if I come over from the front, because I'm trying to draw it to the spec that's up there, grab the corner and I would say 25 inches. Okay. And then we know that that's to the front with some overhang, and if it's starting at the edge right now, because it was supposed to be 7, I have an overhang, so I might want to come in 1 inch before starting the next thing. Who is it? 1 second. Sorry, we locked ourselves into this space. I hope it's probably one of you guys. It might be Nor. Okay. Edit, redo. Okay, I got tricked out by when I was typing my line. Okay, so say 24 inches. There we go. And maybe I can just start like basic. Maybe I don't even have to math it out. But then to the next part, we'll say, what is this interior space? So from here to here with an actual measuring tool would be 4'10". Okay, so then I can draw over 4'10" inches. You're like, what is up with my line tool? Make sure my red's on, 4 foot 10. There we go. And then what's this measurement? 3 foot 10. 3 foot 10 inches. What am I doing wrong, guys? It keeps overextending. I swear I put the 3 foot 10. You see, it's weird. It's like every time it wants to do that. Okay, so let's check this measurement at the back because it should be 7 foot and it's way overrunning. $7 under. It's like my mouse sticks here whenever I work in the lab. There's no way that's even. I was like, I must be good if I just imagined that. Okay, so then we completed something right. Okay, now that I got this far, I'm going to select it all and make it a group. So once I have the group, I can take it and I can pull it up and I can say, what is my total distance? Now, if you really wanted to, like if you're somebody who once you pull it up and you start trying to cut objects out of it, you mess that up every time and it sticks to the edge or whatever, you could do your cutting now so that you have your hole for your sink. You could do it later. I mean, the order doesn't really matter, but you need to know how far over you want that sink or at least like the size of the sink. So if I said their sink looks like it's from the outside edge over about 3 9/16 inches. So we'll double check it, 3 9/16 inches. And then from the front, it's about 2 11/16. So I could put in some guidelines. I could say 3 9/16 inch. And hold on. There it is. I was like, I'm not seeing my guide point. And then I could also say, what did we say? 2 11/16. So 2 11/16 inch. And come over, or at least put some guidelines so I get that going that way. And then we'll say what's its width-ish. Its width is 1 foot 8 3/16. So I'm going to do this again from here and say 1 foot 8 and 3. I think I can do this. 1 foot 8 and 3/16 inch. There. Okay. Going up, we want to make sure it's on the green axis. And then how tall is it? We're going to go like this and say 1 foot 5 7/16. So from here we say 1 foot 5 7/16 inch and come over. Okay, so now I have guides. Come in here and I could take my rectangle tool on here and do that and delete that out now so I have my hole, and then I could do the protrusion of it up. So I could pull it up and say what, 1 inch maybe, or whatever you want it to be, 2 inches. So we get it started, we have a height and we have it's set, and I could move it into place. Now, building it on the ground meant I didn't try to build it in the air on top of something. I got all my measurements based off this item, and then I could pick maybe a corner point to get it close to in place. So if I do this corner to corner, now one option you have is to do it to the inside, so like do it to the perfectly to the edges, and then once you get it on top, double click in the group and say, nah, you know, I really want this to overhang. So then I could grab it and say over 1 inch, enter, and do that at the front. 1 inch, enter. Well, not a foot. It's like my hands are too fast at typing. 1 inch, enter. Okay, so then you get it all in there, and we have all of our cutout for our sink. Was that helpful?
Yes, so helpful.
Okay.
'Cause
Yep.
I was building it on top of the sinks, and it was a struggle.
Yeah, and I think
Or
just
building it
thinking
on
of
top
it,
of the couch.
like, I think too that cutting out things is one of the hardest things people do, and they like, if we can cut that step early when it's flat, it will save time for us in this situation.
Yeah, this simplified it so much more for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. And these are the kind of things you can absolutely ask for homework. I mean, you don't have to ask me homework questions or like have a meeting that's purely, and our SI too, the Kimmy or other students that have taken the class, they can help with this kind of stuff. So if you're like, oh, I have a question, but it's totally random like this, now is the time, and even before this is the time to use lab hours for that with me and Kimmy um, to get that work done. Okay, so if Ellen's folder was ever going to work, we'll find out because we let it wait. Okay, close. Okay, thinks about it. Okay, yay, it's letting us zoom slightly backwards. Okay, so anyway, all I really want to show is that she's labeled this bathroom layout and elevations, and this is for somebody who would be in space planning. So you have to have a nice sheet where you've small, that's such a fake word for what I'm trying to explain, where you've used a viewport and you've structured it down to be your kitchen and bath, and then any elevation that goes with that bath off to the side. That would be a bathroom and layouts elevation sheet that you have to add on your own that my class doesn't have. It would look something like this. This is the best I can do with what's going to open. No, no, no. Okay. So I'm going to open my 14 up again and then just review back to our word plan. So our floor plan, we get that. Furniture plan, we have windows, doors, walls, no unnecessary lines, no rugs or flooring or objects cutting through furniture symbols. So I have to put that line in there because when I get into finals, I know a lot of people start changing things in SketchUp. So like here's my bed and here's my rug underneath my bed. It's the second line. It's a nice square rug underneath my bed. And here's my comforter that's on my bed frame. Notice how my comforter cleanly cuts over my bed frame because it's swagging down the sides. And notice how my rug doesn't like show up through my furniture. It's cut out underneath in the spots where the furniture overlaps it, and so on and so forth. I don't want to be confused by your line work because you didn't take the time to cut a line out from under here so it looks something like this. If SketchUp did most of the work for you, or you've modified it and added stuff by hand, I shouldn't see a continuation of the bed frame cutting through the blanket on top. Little stuff like that. That's what I mean by unnecessary lines. Or there's still some of you guys who it's like, I have 10,000 renditions of pieces of this, and I just happen to have a doodle bop and another doodle bop over off to the side over here that I never cleaned up. And so then when I go to look at your furniture plan or floor plan or really any plan, and I go, oh, what is that doodle bop doing left over there? And I get really angry in my heart because you should have cleaned it up. So that is what I mean by that. And you want them all deleted out and nice and clean. So then if we come down, it says kitchen and master bedroom and bathroom plan place. That's for people who are not in 108. So that's all they're going to have. Theirs is going to match my drawing where I have master bedroom and bath, and then a kitchen and a dining room. If they had it, I remember saying you don't have to have it. You could just have the kitchen for my class. But for everybody else, it should look like a completed furniture plan or space planning. Okay. And then it says CAD only students, only furniture in the rooms with where we did elevations or 3Ds. 108 must have all furniture symbols placed at the time of jury. And you must also have your furniture labels on the furniture. Oh, no, we don't care. Don't forget your key. Okay, so that's for people, this is all stuff for 108 people. We'll double bracket it. You want it to be a real furniture plan where it's like if you look at mine, there's no B1 for bed or C for chair. Yours should have the symbols on it and the furniture key over here, or a reference to where I could find that, like see my specification booklet, so on and so forth. But it should look more like a finalized furniture plan. All right, back to this. So then we have fill the title block in. That's going to be on every page. Fifth is the ceiling plan. It says 1/4 inch scale or the whole plan for 108 to include the spaces completed for Presser King. So it might be an 1/8 inch scale. Proper notes with leader lines. Any lighting that cuts through the ceiling, all walls for 108. Non-108 equals kitchen and master, bedroom, and bathroom walls only. So what I'm saying for a reflected ceiling plan, for my class, they only added a couple rooms. So their reflected ceiling plan, when we go to that, is going to look like adding those rooms. Now, this is not representative. Actually, this is why I usually have, and I can do it right now, and it shouldn't be a huge deal, I don't think, because it's not a lot of work that I put into making this section. So really mine for my class should look like this, and maybe it's throwing some of you off a little bit. So if I come to this corner, we want to have everything hatched and finalized that is a room. Any walls that attach to the ceiling have to be hatched on the reflected ceiling. So my real reflected ceiling should look like this. Hatch this area in, and then usually we hatch any openings with a different hatch. So this little edge piece should be solid on mine. If I go into my hatch, I'm gonna pick solid. It should be on the right layer for you, but I'm just gonna try and get it out of the way. So it should be a solid hatch of the right color. And then this guy in here should match my ANSI diagonal hatch that I have over there of that type of scale. But what I'm getting at is you get a solid hatch for any walls, and then you get a diagonal hatch for this door and for this door, so that we know that there's an opening in there. Okay. All right, so it should look solid. Walls. A lot of us still have them open on the reflected ceiling plan. So it looked something like this, where it's like I'd copy just this portion of my wall in every place, but I didn't bring the hatching over with it. We need to fill the hatch in and hatch with the hatch that we did for our openings, any doors that are included in those walls, be it closet or entry doors. I'm looking at my chat. Nothing new in my chat. Any questions? I'll keep going on with the sheet if I don't have any. So show headers of doors hatched diagonally. So there's a reminder for you. You'll see it. You'll highlight it if you forget. No text or items hidden under cross hatching or legible. So another thing I found is I mentioned that for the reflected ceiling plan, I wanted you to move the notes to an appropriate place if they were interacting with hatches that hid them. So if I go to print this, it's going to cut off all that text. If I see something like this, it's going to be minus, I don't know, what is that section worth? If it's worth 10 points for each, I mean, sometimes if I have 6 things, then there you can imagine it's like 2 point whatever for each of those things. But whatever the amount of things is divisible by 10, and sometimes it'll be wonky, but it will count off for every hidden text item that's under a hatch, or every line that doesn't go to something or is completely unreadable. Let me undo this really quick. Should be pretty. No items under the hatch. Fixture sizes and location make sense with your specification for people in space planning. So, if you tell me that day of I have a giant Chihuly blown glass chandelier, it better not read as a 12-inch chandelier that looks like it'd go in my bathroom, okay? So as long as it looks the right way, you'll be okay. A title block filled in, text and labels oriented as one reads them, not randomly rotated. I'll be like gentle on that one this semester because I'm being nice, but like usually we pick a side. We try not to have all of this down here be read like this reflected ceiling plan direction and all of this up here be read this way and then this corner be flipped another way. Either we do it all this way. So like I decide every text is read with it as if I'd rotate the plan this way and I'd be looking at it appropriated. So then you can imagine everything goes this way. Either we do it all that way, or it's in such a way that everything closest to this wall is this way. Everything closest to this wall is this way, and so on and so forth. Those are the two possible ways. It should just not look so random like it was a last minute decision, but I'll be pretty gentle on that one. Text and labels oriented. Text title block filled in, symbols legend, symbols the same scale and shown on plan. So that's like if it's a 6-inch can on plan, it's a 6-inch can on your symbols legend. For pages 6 and 7, space planning will be graded on whatever portion of the home they chose to focus on. For Professor King's class, the points in Professor King's class, and the points will be combined. For non-108, that's people just in CAD, rooms are done for elevations and 3Ds. So if I'm saying I then need a 6th page, that's my master bedroom, master bathroom, lighting and mechanical plan, then I can come in here and say that's this one. If you had a different one for space planning, then it's just whatever one you chose for space planning is the one that you would have to show me. So I understand that the points will still add up to the same thing. You just might not be doing the ones that I'm calling out on the Word document. So that's 6 and 7. They're both of those mechanical plans or electrical plans, whichever one you want to say, the ones with our switching on them. Shows switches, receps, and lighting. Shows proper switching lines, dashed line type preferred, solid acceptable. I only said that because sometimes Professor King likes them solid in spots or all the time for some of her students if it reads better, and there's been people argue that in the past. Text and labels oriented as one reads, not randomly rotated. Cabinetry in gray, all other lines and symbols draw in black. So we said, see, you can see how my cabinets are in gray, the things that are underneath these so that I can see the black lines better. We controlled the grayness of those objects within our layer properties under our viewport color. See where it's that 252, if it's not already the color that we want it to be. Because otherwise when we print it, if it's black and we print it not in color, then it will just be black all over, even though we've told it to be a different color. All right. Section drawings, pretty straightforward. We already have it done. It says included drawing file will be used to check drawing accuracy. So that's not even a thing this year. You guys all did fine with the section drawing. I had to go back this last time that I did this and say, so many people messed it up. It was like, please have it corrected by this time so that we can get points resolved for that. Title block filled in. 9th page, detail drawings. So include 2 or more details with proper scaling, label for placement on sheet, scale and reference to the floor plan or any other plan. So I go back to this. That's just saying, did you get this labeling correct? And do you have the proper amounts of details that I asked for? Can I reference this circle here back to where that circle goes on your floor plan? So I should be able to find them. Remember, I turned them off, so I've got to turn it on with my layer guy in here. What did I call that? It was like IDI elevation. So If I go back over here now, there they are, and it should match up. 2A5 should be the representation of the side of my fireplace there. So 2A5 is the mantle drawing of my fireplace. And they should be ordered 1, 2, 3, and you should be able to make sure that you find them in their order. Now, people in space planning, you might have more or more sheets that you need to do that. Now here's anything, so that's it. That's it for the pages, the order that they go in, the things to check to see if you've done them correctly. You're going to be submitting to me also a SketchUp model of the exterior office and 2 final perspectives JPEG. We might not even need to do this anymore because I think we've changed the project. So you will do one more submission of the office just so that I make sure I have one for everyone. So, well, why not? I'm feeling lazy. We've got enough files. So let's nix that. A SketchUp file for the office can be gone. So we just need, you will have your SketchUp model submitted to me of revamp if asked perspectives and send as JPEG. So SketchUp model for final rooms. So that's your like whichever 2 rooms you did for the final materials assignments. So we should say models. So if it was a bathroom and a kitchen or a bedroom and a bathroom, revamp if asked. That doesn't have to go in there. You're going to do well, maybe, because I haven't graded it yet. So if I thought that you failed the materials part where we applied materials, I might say correct it. And so it should be corrected is all it's saying at this time. Those corrections should be made. Perspectives and send as JPEG. So SketchUp models for final rooms, and we'll say include, let's make it a separate thing so you get that it's a separate thing. JPEGs, 1 JPEG perspective of each model. I think that's more straightforward. But there can't be, this is the part that I see needing to be cleaned up. No random lines or messy drawing. Axes off, guides off, section planes off, perspective view on, and not parallel perspective. So this note goes with the JPEG. We can put some space. Your model doesn't have to be perfect. It'd be too much. I know some of us, we just hid a lot of stuff. So for that, it's like if you had any lines when you were in SketchUp and it's like you submitted me a drawing and this is what it looked like in the JPEG. So I see the blue axes, I saw the stupid guideline, I saw Jennifer hanging in the distance and she shouldn't have been there. Then I saw maybe you had stuff you forgot. Like here's an ugly line on here and so on and so forth. And I point that out in your materials project, which I will grade by this weekend, everything caught up grading, and then we'll have all these weeks to correct anything. Then that would be what I want corrected. So I want you to go to view, turn off your axes, view, turn off your guides. And then I want you to either delete or hide any lines you don't want to see. I want you to move the objects I've asked of you. And then make sure that you've properly cropped it so it's a lovely view of the thing and it's interesting. Make sure that your camera's in perspective and not parallel projection. That's another thing some of you are still getting points off for. You're forgetting to change. If it was parallel projection, it looks like creepy, weird thing. That's not right. So we got to go back up and say perspective or 2-point perspective to fix that. And then resubmit them. So we'll have a SketchUp models for our final rooms, 1 JPEG perspective of each of those models, along with, at the top, a drawing set as a PDF file, a final Boathouse CAD file, and a perspective view. So like this is like what is included these are just like notes. Maybe I'll keep that up there. That's everything you need to submit. And then we could just call this portion notes on SketchUp. SketchUp models for final rooms revamped if asked, and then these things required. Okay, and then that's an easy 10 points because most of you have that homework done and it's acceptable. So that's it. And then we have the total and any comments that I'm going to make. Okay, I'm going to save this here. I'm going to check what Michelle was saying about it not showing up correctly. So if I go back to EDSN, go down to our week that we're in, we're going to get into week 13. And here's where I want to say options, edit, title, basic CAD. So I want to basically turn this off, unpublish that. Then options, I want to add a assignment, no, a file. And we want the file to be 2019. And I can publish that, or nope. Yep, 2019 is published. That's unpublished. So you'll only see the 2019. You know where I think it was that I didn't change it? I changed it in the final project. This is where you submit it. So it's also under the submitted link in case you get confused. And then you can grab it today in this session under the document. So it should be good to go on that end. Let's see, other things I wanted to say. Did any of you have any trouble getting your dimensions to be readable for some of these items that you created? Or you did just fine dimensioning out your details?
Yeah, Allison, my dimensions came out like normal size. I couldn't get them to scale down.
Okay. Who is that? I missed it.
Amanda.
Okay, Amanda. So I think I'm all fine with it. And under this like extra stuff that I gave you, that's what I was wondering if there was like secretly other dimensions hanging out. Because sometimes in the, like when I gave you this box of stuff and stair or whatever else was included, there's like just one dimension that's hanging out. If not, I know like I can kind of like copy this and save some of these extra dimensions in a file. What is this one called? I think I set it up myself. And standard 1/8 dim 96 for 3/4 inch scale. So I set up a 3/4 inch scale myself because dimensions are hard. We never like went in, it's just in the settings of the dimension. You just play with it until you're like, oh, I kind of like that one, but it's not as straightforward. And this one's detail drawing. So I can copy these home. We'll say that one and that one. I'll make a copy of. And let's see, that's unnecessary. We'll just do one from the start tab. I will post it to this week that you guys can use that if you're still struggling with that. You can sometimes scale dimensions and make it work, but it's a little difficult. So I have no problem throwing that in there as a little bonus since we haven't gone deeper into dimensions. Architectural
Thank you.
imperial. You're welcome. Model, Control V. So here's these two things, and then they're kind of like straightforward as like this one didn't have association with a size. This one I was using on my 3/4 inch, and so if I go under annotate, you can see it says 96 size for a 3/4 inch scale. That's what that stands for right there. And this one is just a smaller one, so it works well with those things like baseboards and mantles and stuff that's smaller than and needs to be a bigger size yet. So you can try either one of these. Let's save these as text files. Desktop, save, and then I will upload it really quickly as a file. So plus a file. See, new file, choose file. file. Open. And I won't count off for that in this assignment if it's like you did the old college try and you got your details in there and the test is kind of wonky. We won't count out for that. I think I meant to cover it. Like, I think I said something and then tangented last week was not good anyway. And so then I was like, oh, and then there's dimensions. These are kind of, and then I lost it. So I won't count off for it. Let's see, and it's available now under 13, text file. Let's look back at it. Let me see if there's anything I can think of. So that's one stopping thing. Other than that and understanding the order of these documents, that's pretty much all I have. So remaining time, I had told somebody I could, like today in class would be good. Was it Amanda or Ashley?
Ashley.
All right, so what else do you have that you want to talk about? Can I share your screen?
I don't even have my assignment pulled up.
Oh, do I need it or is it just so general I can do it on my
It's
side?
general.
Okay.
Yeah, it's general. I pretty much just wanted like a better walkthrough of what actually you were wanting to do for that last assignment because I just feel like it jumps around. And so I would just wanted it like so where I could check mark, make
Better
sure I
than-
got it all
Better
done.
than this?
No, not that. Not this assignment.
Oh,
previous
I was
assignment.
like that was pretty good. I felt like that was a
No.
Okay. Okay. So you mean the like previous week is what you're
Yeah, the that one, the 11.
gonna. Okay. Oh, wait. 12?
No,
Like-
go up the 11 assignment. Yeah, that one.
Okay. So it said we reviewed import export elevation, parallel projection. Okay. So the real homework doesn't start until in here. So for our
Okay.
CAD homework, we're going to export furniture into our floor plan of our working CAD file. Space planning students turn in your completed furniture plan. So that's like any new, all this was getting at is you might have placed originally like some blocks in a previous week where it's like, oh, this will be where my bed is and at this time, you know, and then once you saw the SketchUp and you were like, oh, I could have the real bed with a lot of details and stuff like that. So if you swapped, what I'm getting at is people in 108 needed to update their plan to be similar in its 3D as it is in its flat normal floor plan and furniture plan. Does that make sense? So it was like if you decided to detail out a bed using SketchUp, then you needed to take the furniture from SketchUp and export it into your furniture plan so it matched.
Into CAD?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was what we were working on that week is it's like I showed you, oh, you know, that's kind of like where we talked about if I want to have the exact furniture, I could, or I could take an existing piece from SketchUp and make it look a little bit more realistic. Now, if what you drew in CAD already in Cheryl's class or previously was detailed and it matches your 3D renderings, I'm okay with that. And you didn't have to change everything. Does that make sense? It's like, this is basically update, but for the people in my class, they literally had like rectangles. And so it was like, now was their chance because they had no specifications and no furniture. So they were going in and using SketchUp to put in some interesting furniture.
Okay.
So
the
it's like,
SketchUp is just to utilize to make the CAD file more fancy or more detailed.
exactly, yeah. And and more representative of your 3Ds because no matter if you're in space planning or not, we're using SketchUp to show a 3D. And so in that case, it's like, well, whatever you did there, you probably changed from your concept in space planning enough that you'd have to export something. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
a nightstand or something that you added, or even adding like a special rug that you found, and then you're like, oh yeah, I got to add that in. Things you didn't think about previously in your plan. So it's like update your furniture plan to be a final furniture plan, basically is what this would say. And then materials homework was 10 points to export a before and after elevation of your two spaces. So that meant with your SketchUp file, initially we had created a file and we just pulled in a bed. And I said, we don't know how to paint this bed yet, so it could have had clowns all over the bedspread, right? And so then it says, after you want to show me the picture of the room before with the clowns on the bedspread, and then after take a JPEG that shows me the room where you've changed it to be a nice, beautiful green, plain bedspread. And that's because there's no other way for me to know that you changed the materials. You know what I mean? Without having to go back between two files like a previous assignment. So it was like, just take a quick screenshot of your space before and after.
Okay, so I would just need to like just change the bed color, or
Yep.
like what if I
Any-
added accessories? Would I just
Anything.
toggle
Yep.
accessories
Yep. So
on?
all I need, yeah. So I'm just getting at all you need is a before and after JPEG picture so that I can tell you changed it. So whatever changes you made. Yep.
Okay, and that's just in the SketchUp.
Uh-huh. So in SketchUp, you're exporting a JPEG picture and you're attaching that into your final homework. So
Which
that looks
I
like,
actually don't remember how to do the JPEG.
okay. So that would look like if this was it. Okay, so we're saying this is it before. So this is what this whole part, this step looks like. So I'm asking for 2 rooms. That's why there's going to be 4 pictures. So this is room number 1. And here's it before. So I'd say if I get it how I want it, and I say File, Export, 2D Graphic. I make sure this Save As type is set to JPEG. And I can
Okay.
say before kitchen, and then export. So now I have a JPEG of before kitchen on my desktop. Then I came in here because I hated the way this looked. I got in here and I painted it, and I love blue because yes, I do. And then I came out and I said, ooh, that's perfect, but only that door because that's what I really want. And I said, okay, this is ready to send. And then I say File, Export, 2D Graphic, Kitchen After. And I export it. So that would be one room with the 2 pictures that I need. So you would just send me the 2 pictures for the kitchen and the 2 pictures for the bedroom. So the before and after for 2 spaces.
Okay. Thank you for let me through that part.
Yeah. So that's that piece. Then the next one is export 2 interesting perspectives as JPEGs, parallel projection off. And oh, wait, one more thing is, so the defining word in that one was elevation. So actually, so I got you through like it's before and after, but this should have been camera, parallel projection, camera, standard view, whichever way that I'm going to see that. So camera, standard view, let's try left. Let's try, we're going to have to walk around the whole thing. Never pay attention. Standard view, back? That's weird. All right, so this would be it because I want to show the blue door, right? So if it's an elevation and it says elevation, the JPEG should be an elevation before and after. And that way we're trying all of our camera tools and our paint tools. So it'll be before and after elevation of kitchen, before and after elevation of bedroom. Then the next one would be 2 interesting perspectives. So that means we said a finished room where you have walls and a ceiling and it's all ready, but that means I have to turn my parallel projection off because it's only used for elevation. And now it could be in perspective. If I wanted to make it a perfect 2 point, I could change it to 2 point. And what I mean by interesting is it's not like this again, because if this is the perspective and I already have an elevation, why do I care about it? So it's like, oh, I want to see more at a different angle. So this is interesting to me. And it's in perspective, not in elevation. But yours would have a full room, right? So this is just I'm just showing on my screen. So it was that it has to be clean. Like make sure you zoomed in so that your walls are fully shown. The ceiling is up here. There's no like sky showing through. And you've got something interesting going on with your room.
Okay, so then you want a picture or a JPEG of
That
one perspective for each room.
Yes.
I'm writing it down, thanks.
Nope, no problem. I love that. All right. And then in a separate drawing, apply a photo texture to an item you will bring in from the warehouse. Did you get that from the video?
See, that's the one I didn't understand. I went ahead, I've already done the frame, like put a picture of my family in a frame and hung it on a wall,
Yeah.
but I didn't understand what you meant by the textured from the
Sure.
warehouse.
So I am going to a picture from the warehouse. So I think what I'm saying is and it's been, I think, did I re-record it? So let's see. In a separate drawing, apply a photo texture to an item you'll bring in from the warehouse. So you're supposed to pick, this is my item from the warehouse. I brought it in from the Google warehouse. That's the little icon up here. So it's saying bring in a furniture item. And once you bring in the furniture item, you want to paint it, but you want to tile in a picture because that's like if I had a fabric that I loved, I could apply it to a chair. So I should have in that video shown you, like if I say Maharam and I go and and let's say textiles just happen to go on cabinets, okay? So this is, but really it'd go on a chair, but the same kind of concept. So I save the image as desktop, silly thing. And then I come in here and I go to my materials and I say, I'm gonna create a new material. Let me make sure that I'm in just like materials. So I'm gonna do a new material. And I'm going to add a picture, desktop detail. So there's my picture for my material. Okay, and here it is. I'm gonna get into my door, which could be a chair, right? Because that's the textile that I'd want, is the one that I got off the website. And so what I was getting at is if I loved that fabric from that manufacturer, because SketchUp is how it is, we can create a material and apply it based off a photograph we pull in from a website. So it looks realistic to what I selected. Does that make sense?
That's pretty neat.
So it'd be cooler on a chair.
Yeah.
But now that's what I'm saying. Pull in an object and then paint it the way you want to based off of it could be a fabric, it could be a tile, it could be, any type of material that you need it to be that you pull in as a photo.
Allison?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that I was confused there. I got material into SketchUp,
Uh-huh.
but I couldn't get it on the chair that I picked out. So I'll try it again now that I've seen you do this.
Well, can we see, did you like double click into because sometimes it could be the item, okay? So I don't want to say that that's your fault. It could be that you picked a silly model or a model that someone wasn't very clean with, and either you have to click 10,000 times and you need to click more than 3 times to get in, and that's just a lot of clicking, which is fine, and we can do that, or it's just hard to use. So sometimes the model is the problem. But
Okay.
sometimes it's the amount of clicking. So I would try clicking and clicking again. I might have to like click until I get so far into the group and then I can do it.
Okay, I'll try it again.
Okay. All right. So you can do even cooler stuff. I don't remember that video. It sounds like you guys don't either, but it was the one where I know I wasn't here, but I thought like whenever I usually do it, I usually show just the material and then I'll say, okay, if I brought in a tile picture, then I can scale it because within a material itself, if we're going to edit a material, we can change the scale by unlocking this. We could have it be equal or not equal, and opaque or clear or transparent. And so those are all things we can change about anything we bring in from the internet. If we need another day for that, we can do that another time. I just want to get like a good overview of anything that's missing. So if someone says in the chat, yeah, please let's do materials more, the video didn't cover it enough, we could do that. Or if you have specific instances like, how do I bring this picture in? Then think about bringing those things to our next meeting so we can get all of those in.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. If we were finished with materials.
I believe we are.
Okay. So for the detailed drawing, I think I'm having a hard time. are our detailed drawings supposed to be a specific scale when we make
So
them?
no, because
Okay.
all the scaling happens in AutoCAD in the sheets.
Okay, and that's where
So
we give it
because
the 0, the paper space for dashing, we want PSLT scale equals 0.
yeah, so in our model space, yeah, that would be 0. And then
Okay.
in here we have the 1 and then whatever each individual item is set to. So go ahead.
I think that answered it. And then like like our circles, so our circles that are on our leader lines,
Mhm.
do those need to be any specific size for you?
These guys or
Um,
these little circles,
Like, yeah, the little circles.
just big enough to fit the text in a readable way. So I would say no.
I think I lost you for a second.
Oh, I said just big enough that it's readable, and when you go onto your sheet, it's not so teeny tiny. But also, I think there's a disconnect between people understanding how huge this is in real life. So it's like
Yeah.
if this is 24, like let's go to our home tab and measure our sheet of paper, right? So if our paper it's really bigger than this. I love how it's saying it's like a foot. It's not. Let me do the print. I'm gonna print. So.
So like
Oh,
basically, right, because we need to be able to see it on the computer.
yeah.
So we're making it gigantic, basically.
Yeah, we're making gigantic. So like if this was probably like more like 24 by 36, then you'd imagine this is almost like a foot, like that normal sheet of paper. So something this small is not that small. But if I was in here and it was hard to read, like the circle was the size of the 2, that would be too small. And then
Yeah.
the 2 is smaller.
Yeah.
So yeah, just readable from about like this far out. I'm like, oh yeah, I can read that getting into here, and it's 24 inches big, so that's okay.
Okay. And then like in terms of what we are calling the things that we label, like I just want to get clarification on that it's like basically, for instance, like I'm like, how do I label the pieces of a of like crown molding? Like, you know, I
Yes. So
have
that
basically
was where
my
I
best
said
of my
you want
ability.
to you want to do a good search. So like we're practicing like our research ability, and then like some crown literally is one piece, in which case
Right.
it's not an extremely interesting detail, but Michelle, for being in just CAD class, I don't mind it. It just be really simple. You know what I mean? Like you would have one thing and then you would say molded plywood, or whatever the one material
Okay.
is that you have the section for. But if you wanted to make a more ornate crown, sometimes you take the piece of that molding and then below that you have like a beveled bull nose piece that's a 1/4 inch or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like you could have just one thing, or you could have 3 things stacked on top of each other to make a better, more interesting thing. And in that
Right.
case, you're just labeling. So let's see.
Like I spent like probably 2 hours searching. And I mean like I've come up with stuff. I just have no idea if they're right because it's like information jumbled together from like various different images of crown molding.
And I would just pick one. So just like this, if it's like I pick this one, this is the one I'm basing it off of, then it's on you to like copy and draw what you want from the detail. And so like if this is a side view of it, you could even show an install because this is an install detail, right? We have like the backboard and the gypsum board. And then you're saying, here's the piece of crown. What is this? A piece of flat trim. So I have one piece of flat trim with like a beveled edge on it, and then I have crown, and you just pick one because all you're doing is selecting. Remember that, and don't go beyond that. You're making a selection. Then the contractor saying, agreeing, yeah, lady, it seems like you got it. You want it at the corner. You know what I mean? Like he's getting it. He's like, oh, you want it at the
Like,
corner?
I get that. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
And if he doesn't like it, he'll go, no, you're an idiot. Actually, we need to do this and this. Then you go, okay, and that's fine, Well, show me something I can do that with, and then that'll all be good.
Okay.
We're just practicing the labeling and communicating.
The process of it. Yeah. I mean, I think I like tend to overthink these things in case you haven't noticed.
I know.
And
actually, I'm surprised I haven't heard from you in a long time. I was like, we have broken our symbiotic relationship.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. So yeah, like I think I just I think you'll just have to see what you think.
All right, sounds good to me.
Okay, thank you.
All right, what other fun questions? Hopefully, Ashley, that was enough then. I think we rounded out the end of that assignment walkthrough.
Yeah, so the only question I had left was,
Mhm.
are we needing to do like the furniture layout and the circles for that assignment, or is that part of a different assignment?
Are
Because
you,
at the top of it, it mentions it.
up here on this?
Yeah, in the where you're saying, yeah,
Says furniture belongs on the floor plan with the ability to toggle it on and off. Furniture needs to be on a
layers.
furniture layer.
See, maybe I'm getting confused. So we don't have to do the circles and the
Mm-mm.
labels for
Are
this assignment.
and are you're in space planning, right?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you don't ever have to.
Okay, because I've been stressing out about that.
Nope, you never have to because you don't know your furniture. You haven't ever really specified real furniture, so there's
Right.
no way for you to label it ever. Yours
Oh,
is just
okay.
gonna look just like what mine looks like on the screen for the furniture plan, minus the lighting lines. So it's just gonna look like that. You're just gonna have furniture, no symbol to the side, no legend, no dots.
Legends. Okay.
I
Okay.
keep forgetting that too, or not for like
Yeah.
well, it's like what I keep forgetting to do is label the detail. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's like we don't need to do the furniture, but we need to do where our detailed things are in the house. But that's
Yes,
this week.
yes. Install notes. Sorry, my lights are really bothering me. I'm trying to find. Well, I can just click on them here. Switching lines. Go away, switching lines.
I think I was just following your video so thoroughly that I started getting a lot of questions because you were doing all the circles for everything and the tables and the numbers and
Yeah, the going back and forth between you and space planning people stuff.
yeah.
No, that makes sense. All right, so yeah, ours is real basic. In fact, you're pretty much done. It's the space planning people that have a big haul left to their lives. Sorry, space planning. But I mean, the positive thing is like this is where it merges, and this is where you gain that double time, space planning people, because we're done here, and now you just like put it together here. But what you're putting together here is also what you're putting together for space planning as part of your final. So you've got all this time between the two things, and we do it that way on purpose. And then the people in CAT are just like, peace out. I might turn it in early and take some spring vacations or whatever I want to do. So we're okay with that too. My final is not a jury, and so if you do want to turn it in early and stop coming, I will count you as present if you let me know. So that's fine with me. Now, space planning people can't do that because they have to go to jury, but absolutely, you want to finish 2 weeks early, you can if you want to work really hard. People in my class, or not, spread it out.
Spread
Feed
it
your
out.
babies. Get your hair done for Easter, whatever else you got to do.
A lot of stuff going on here. So like when is okay, so I'm like looking at the calendar and I know we have then till the 25th on the module 12, and then when do we start the cleaning up again? Or when is this assignment due?
It's due at the end.
So we're just like basically next deadlines, current one due the 25th, and then everything you showed us tonight, and then everything you'll show us after that is due at the end.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And I'm not going to show you anymore. I mean, if I show you anymore, it's just because I want to share and I enjoy learning. And so it'll be like, hey guys, look what I can do. And then you go, ooh, I wish I could do that. And then you go, now I can. But it's not going to be something where it's like, now send me a file that proves that you know how I'm doing that. It could just be like, look at this really cool, like,
Yeah.
like tonight we could go, I mean, we're not going to, maybe for 5 seconds here would be a good time to like show you what does that look like? What are we going to do when we don't have anything to do? One, I'll say, hey, if you want to leave, you can leave. Sometimes I'll make you stay and listen to the cool thing that I want to share because I have the authority to do that and I think it's fun. So if we said SketchUp plugins, realistic rendering. there's like 1,000 videos you could probably watch on YouTube for it. And so there's like a ton of different extensions that you would go to. And so like these are SketchUp files. This is a SketchUp file that has a plugin added onto it that when you went into your SketchUp, you could find it would become like another tool in your bar up here after you added it on. And it would give you the ability to make beautiful, realistic renderings like
I
this.
love that so much more than the way SketchUp looks.
I know. And so if we want to just do like a night on that, like what's the best one, what's the cheapest one, I could show you one called Kirkathea, which is totally free and like open source, but it requires you to watch some videos and teach yourself. I taught myself to use it, and I did it when I was working at a contract furniture company, and I did it for like we lied to someone. We told them, haha, don't ever talk. This shouldn't say this. I don't work there anymore. We lied to a big company. We were working with an architect, and we told them we didn't want to use Revit because we didn't have the license, and we had a SketchUp license. So we're like, but it's not very pretty. So they're like, can you do some really nice renderings? We said, yeah, we know how to do that. We didn't. So then we're like, we don't want to pay, we're cheap. We don't want to pay for the thing. So like, Allison, what do you got? Like 2 weeks where you could learn how to teach yourself this thing that does this thing? And I said, sure. And I'm not even going to say I was good at it. I could show you what I did for that project. It was for a baseball stadium in Michigan where it was doing all the like private rooms off the stadium where you can drink and eat and have your own decorations and stuff. And so it was small, like they were small rooms. And then I did one like really large hallway with a bunch of clouds for sound control and like some really cool decorative wall stuff. But it's not impossible, but I would say it would take a good month to like grapple with just basic things like how to get reflections, you know what I mean? How to deal with light control. And so it's worthwhile if you're going to keep it forever and use it. But otherwise, I'd be like, pay the money. Like that's where I was at with it in the end. I was like, what is it, $50 for a year or something or forever? I'm paying the $50.
Yeah. What is Revit?
Revit is the program that you're going to learn next year.
Yeah.
Or semester. Everything's so fast. And it's a branch of CAD, so it's the three-dimensional software that goes along with the CAD set, and it can be super realistic like that, and you learn how to do that inside the class.
Wow. Okay.
So if you hate SketchUp, you might really like Revit. I find people like one or the other. Revit is another one where it's very comprehensive. So I was telling someone like you take it and it seems very rote and boring when you take it, and that has nothing to do with the professor. Like if I did it, if Cheryl did it, it doesn't matter who's doing it. We have to actually use the book every day and just read from it and like walk through. So sometimes your homework's done in the day. So it's like she goes step 1, draw this line, step 2, draw this wall. So if you really love that, like hand holding where it's like, okay, I'm following along in my book and now we're drawing it, I would recommend for when you take it, get a second monitor if you don't have one and you're like, I usually just watch your video and then I go back. Just do it in real time and then the homework's done. But you want a second monitor because of the amount that gets done in the class where you're walking through it. You'll feel like you're doing something twice for no reason. And so it's just so much like it's way harder than SketchUp in reality, but you're going to feel it's easier because it's like how I treated CAD the first semester. But then at the end, you'll be like, wow, how will I ever remember that? Because it's more difficult than CAD. Like CAD is like lines and shapes, and Revit is like, set this 3D texture by clicking on the box. And then after you click on the box, type the letter A. And after you type the letter A, use the %. You know, it's like, how would I ever remember those 50 steps that for me to put the piece of fabric on there? And it's like just by repetition, but do we have that much time to repeat it very many times? No. So that's why we use the book. So if we're not there, you can absolutely go back and be like, okay, that was on page 32, how to apply material.
That
So,
makes sense.
but it's good because you'll have a really nice software for realistic rendering.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. If there was an award for talking, I would win it. All right, so who else has anything? Nothing? Okay, I'm gonna pull the plug, guys. Got questions. I know some of you have set up times to meet with me outside of class, so this doesn't negate those times. I already made those.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah, Angie.
Okay, so you were just talking about Revit.
Yeah.
That's considered advanced CAD, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
is that also space planning, or is space planning a totally different class?
Space planning is a totally different class, and it's usually taken with CAD. So what we're
Okay.
taking now, but then advanced CAD and Revit is taken with lighting and building systems. Now, someone told me from this class that lighting and building systems is being ran as an 8-week course instead of 16 weeks, which has never been done
It
before.
is.
And so I don't know how that's going to resolve itself so that I'll probably ask Professor King soon, because usually it works the way we do it now, Angie and everybody else, where it's like I do a project for lighting and building systems using Revit to make it better. And so they go together. But they could still technically go together, but that would be a lot of changing from what I've done in lighting and building systems. And lighting and building system is not something that should be done in 8 weeks, just because it's like everything you'd ever want to know about all the environmental LEED green information. And I feel like that's short to learn about ceilings and plumbing and air quality. And so anyway, I don't know how it'll be done. I'm not saying that to scare you, but at the same time, it's like, it's kind of strange to me. So it's like Revit. So to answer your question, yes, Revit's different. It usually goes with lighting and building systems, and then CAD goes with space planning.
Okay, thank you.
I talked to, sorry, no, I'm sorry. Are you finished?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. I talked to Professor King about those classes, and it sounded like a real drag to do it that way with the second 8 weeks. And I was really disappointed.
That we're cutting the second half.
Yeah, it just sounded like a really unnecessary, like, crunch, basically.
Well, it's not a crunch by us. In fact, we're the one of like 2 departments that has resisted the school's attempt.
Yeah.
And
'Cause
so it's like
cool.
we're
Yeah.
like evil left side of this. So we're like the people who are like, we will
Holding
not
out.
bend to you. Yes. And then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, you will bend because you have the lowest amount of people in the that take up the least amount of surface area, and you steal all our resources. And we're like, okay. So
We're important. Well, right. So, I mean, she was totally straight up with me and was like, the school's pressuring us. And I mean, that was in the local paper here too, like the 8-week thing.
yeah.
I just think it's like, I don't know. It seems.
I mean, I'm here. We're going to pause the recording.